Queues. It's pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's a first in, first out queue via a REST API. You can have a maximum of 8K per message. If you need more than that, you store a reference to that data and store it in a blob or a table or somewhere else. So you just put data in a queue, and then pull it back out again. So of course the obvious kind of reason for that is if you've got multiple things inserting and taking out of a queue. You have your queue, and you put your messages in, and then you have them pulled out by your worker roles, for example. Here's where it isn't quite a queue. So what can happen is you can have your queue items in your queue. Your worker roles basically say take the top one. So say this one takes message 1. Okay? Takes message 2. It doesn't actually take from the queue. What it does is it basically marks them as invisible. Jeff can see where I'm going with this. But what can happen, you see, is if this message is such a type of message that it will actually take out my worker role, it'll destroy my worker role, and I want to process the message. I want to complete processing the message. So after a period of time, message 1 will reappear in the front of the queue. So meanwhile, this one's processed message 2, marked it as completed when it is actually removed from the queue, and then afterwards go on to process message 1.
So you can destroy another worker role?
Yes.
This sounds like the opposite behavior to what I want.
No, because there's a dequeue count. So what your system can do is it can look at the dequeue count and say, hey, this has been dequeued 5 times. That's dodgy. And what it does is it can actually queue it into a poison queue, for example, so that you can actually examine it later. So you can actually put it into a completely separate queue and say, okay, these are messages that have been dequeued way too frequently. Something's wrong. The other problem is, of course, that say it didn't die. Oops. But it just took a long time, a lot longer than normal. So it's still working. And 1 reappears. Worker role 2 then dequeues 1 and starts working on it as well. Eventually this one says, hey, I'm done, and kills it. But worker role 1 is already working on it, so your worker roles have to be idempotent. They guarantee that your message will be processed at least once. You need to have these tasks need to be done in such a way that it doesn't matter if it happens again. So when you dequeue, you mark it invisible for a period of time. If you see that you are getting that, you actually increase your timeout such that you can ensure that you will be completed. It's better to go slightly long. You want your check to see if there's anything in the queue to be at least as long as your invisibility timeout. So like I say, so if this is a poisoned message, what you can do is you can say, no, I've seen that's been dequeued 5,000 times. You wouldn't let it get to that much. And you'd put it in, the queue of doom. But you've got nothing pulling those messages out yet. You can actually go in and examine those. And when you fix the problem, you can just feed those back into your main message queue and let them be processed. And, it's a nice way to do just an asynchronous operations. So yeah, loosely coupled. I kind of went into that. Once something's put something into the queue, it knows it's going to be processed at least once, so it can just forget about it. So things can go into the queue, the web roles or whatever can forget about them, and the worker roles can pull them out. you can actually read, if you want high throughput, so transactions per second, you can actually use multiple queues, you can read multiple messages, or you can actually, each message can contain more than one work item. So, that's queues. Does that make sense? It's pretty basic. It's per size, so it's per the size of your queue and per transactions per second. Per transactions.
Do you have any control over the size of the queue?
Yes, because you control how fast you're putting in. You can see what your queue count is. If your queue count is high, you can increase your number of worker roles in order to suck data off the queue faster. If your queue count's low, you can reduce the number of worker roles in order to, in order to not have too many worker roles active at once. It is not automatic, no. Yeah. Again, of course, there's no API to do this automatically.
Two quick questions. What sort of stuff might you use Queue for, and also 8K, that seems a little small.
Yeah, it is small. I'm going to go into now, I'm just going to actually start talking about a worked example in a second. About what, so we've talked about roles and blobs and queues and all of that, and I'll work with you to create an example of how you would actually use this.
These RESTful APIs, are they only available from within a role, or are they available from your...
They're available on the web.
But can you run on your own client?
Yes.
So can I post to a queue from my machine without going via other role?
Yes. Yes, so you can do anything on any of the...
To a queue extension URL for data in the queue.
Yep. Yep, that's exactly what you can do. So you've got the .NET APIs, you've got the .NET libraries that allow you to do it, but they are all standard RESTful APIs. You can go on the website; they're all quite clearly documented.
Oh, it's the actual protocol being raised to the document.
Yes.
So there is scope for writing, say, an iOS library that can do this.
Oh yes, yes. They've actually done it. So Microsoft have actually, about a week ago, they released an update to their iOS library. So you can actually download. I believe if you want to know more about it, Ben Channel's tried it out.
Yeah, but I mean, I could write one for $SQL platform.
Yes, there are quite a lot of people who've written them for like PHP and all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff.